Hi, it's Jane Mann, and today we're going to do a video that's probably like the top requested video. How do I work the 11s or the lines between the eyes with the ANMA? So again, we're going to kind of pick up from this last video in some of the bands of fascia that we have. So as I mentioned before, we have like a deep band of fascia along our underneath the clavicle, right? And it's really in the diaphragm and the rib cage. And then we have another thick band kind of going underneath our jawline. And then if you were to think about like the Lone Ranger or somebody with a mask on or a raccoon, we have a band of fascia around our eyes. But not only is this more of a dense layer of fascia, fascia still resembles a spider web. It's omnidirectional, right? And so when there's an injury or repetitious movement, fascia gets kind of bound and it wants to protect. I give an analogy to clients all the time. If you were younger, or maybe you broke a bone at one time, like I remember I was in my 20s and I was walking and I tripped over something and I broke my radial head. And the immediate response of my body was for the arm to contract up, and the connective tissue wanted to protect this joint so I wouldn't move it. That was kind of fascia into play. Well, what people don't realize is facial muscles are involuntary to emotion. Our facial muscles are working all the time. Well, as we know, fascia starts at the top of the skin, connects all of the cells, and the kind of spatial fluid goes through the muscle down to the bone. And what happens is sometimes that fascia, if it really needs to protect things or hold something into spot, that fascia entwines into the bone. And that's where we start to get these static wrinkles and the static appearance. So today I'm going to kind of go over some of the muscles that we're going to be working on, and we're going to work on it with a really deep intensity of a level 3. So I always talk about the levels with the ANMA, and a level 1 is just super light, kind of just something that kind of like you're scratching an itch, right? Level 2 is kind of moving the tissue along that muscle. Level 3 is really going in and digging in. And so the muscles that create the 11's, that kind of the muscles that kind of go in there. It's kind of a trifecta. So we have the corrugator and the supercilii. And this is this little muscle right here, right? And if you look to the diagram on the left, those muscles pull down and crinkle. And then you have the corrugator here and the procerus right here. And obviously your frontalis muscles. But all of them work together to create that scowling look. So those are the muscles that we're going to address. Now, for the lighthearted, this is a little tender. At least it is for me. I do this and I think to myself, oh my God, I do this to my clients and they still come back, but it hurts. So let's start first, just taking the spine of the ANMA and putting it right along the brow. And I'm just going to hold. And I'm pressing in. So I'm going into that brow. And what I'm actually doing is as I'm going in, I'm lifting up. And so I'm trying to kind of release some of the deeper fascia that might have adhered around the bone that wants to keep that muscle in place. And Botox does an amazing effect because it just paralyzes the muscle, so the fascia has nothing to do. It's on vacation. But when that muscle gets reactivated, that fascia pulls that muscle back into play. So in the last video, we talked about the golden rule of 3 minutes. And it's typically 90 seconds when we start to get a softening of that fascia, or the kind of that adhesion, that stickiness. So you can see I'm holding here and I'm pressing in. And then what I'm going to do is, let's just say I held this for 3 minutes. I'm going to go out to the outside. And again, I'm holding and I'm pressing. For me, it isn't near as painful on the outer edge. So I just want to make it a little bit more. So I'm going to hold it. You can see how it's lined up. And now I'm going to twist it like I'm opening up a jar. And I'm just kind of stretching out. And if you really want to get fancy, you could place your hand along the kind of the outline of your cheekbone, just kind of pulling that out. Sometimes I kind of like to go in and out, because I think about the analogy of untangling a necklace when we're trying to release fascia. So sometimes a nice pull is nice, but sometimes I like to loosen it up and stretch it out. And we're really getting a nice hydration in that location. So we've got the center here and here. And now I like to take the corner of the ANMA and I'm going to go right in. Do you see how I'm like right in that pocket of the brow? And I'm in that supercilii. So take a look at the image on the other side of me, and you can see that corrugator supercilii. It's kind of like that conjunction point where the corrugator muscle meets in with the supercilii and it pulls it down. And this one normally is just going to hurt like the dickens. So you want to stay here. And as I'm kind of going up, you can see where I'm kind of lifting up in that spot and I'm holding it. A good rule of thumb is if it hurts, you're in the right space. So I'm going to do that again for another 3 minutes. And then I'm going to kind of take my ANMA, again, the spine, and I'm going to press into the frontalis and I'm going to lift. And this is really great for those of you that ever maybe tragically gotten in an accident, maybe went through a windshield or have any type of scarring. This is a very bony spot. So many times you'll get fascial adhesions through that brow bone. So you're going to hold it and we're going to lift. And again, you can do it as close together as you like, kind of marking the way. So this is a great way to spend your time watching the Ozark or Virgin River or whatever you're binge watching on Netflix. Let me know your thoughts if you liked this, if you don't like it. I always love hearing the results that you get. And until my next video, happy lifting.